Welcome to another edition of the Hoop Scoop. I'm Geoff Johnson. I'm joined by the mighty Joe. Yeah, well, mighty Joe. Another video, yet another new, definitely mighty Joe-ish hat.
Thank you very much.
What's the story of your new hat, man?
Yeah, well, it's that warm time of year, so that means it's time for the straw instead of the felt. So that's what this is here, and it's actually called a gust hat. Have you ever seen Lonesome Dove?
Of course.
Series? All right. Well, Gus McRae.
Yeah.
There was a special hat that was made just for him, and it had this sort of sloped down front part of the crown, and they call these things gust hats. So
wow,
that's
that
what
makes
this
sense.
is. Yeah.
That's one of my all-time favorite characters, especially in the book. The book.
I need to read that book.
Yeah, but of course Duvall was great portraying him. But this is the Hoop Scoop, not the Lonesome Dove or Mighty Joe hat video. But Mighty Joe, you've written about it. I've written about it. We've discussed it in the Hump Day chat and wherever on Inside the Red Raiders, but we haven't talked about Texas Tech basketball, their most recent additions. And it almost seems like with today's fast pace, especially with the transfer portal, coverage and news cycle, it almost seems like forever ago. But it really wasn't that long ago that Texas Tech, made a couple of, I think, key additions, and want to discuss it here in this space on video. But Nolan Groves at a high school is very interesting. Addition is a dude that was committed to Yale for a while, opened up his commitment, visited Texas Tech, committed, signed. I believe he's enrolled. He told me in an interview that he was just waiting on the paperwork and he was going to enroll. Clearly, the guy, hitting the books isn't going to be a problem if he was going to Yale originally. And then what I want to talk about, and I believe I'm saying this right, but probably not. Luke Van Goier is a 6'10" center coming over from VCU. I mean, it looks like a Federico replacement. But let's start with Groves. I want to get your input on what you think he brings to the Texas Tech roster.
Yeah, now being a high school player and jumping all the way into the Big 12, it's still the most brutal conference. Right. SEC had a good year last year, but hey, Big 12 was good last year too. They have been for the last dozen seasons.
Right.
So you're jumping from Minnesota high school, Big 12. And he's got a lot of guys sort of at that wing position that he's got to deal with in terms of minutes. Tyree Bryant, Atwell, Lawan Watts, these transfers, and then even Christian Anderson can play out there a little bit too. So minutes are going to be hard to come by. So I temper the expectations on him. I think actually getting on the floor and playing a lot of meaningful minutes this year, but developing on down the line. He's an interesting player because he's sort of most guards these days are all about the triple.
Right.
Hanging around out there on the perimeter and palms away and cutting off those little flare screens and scoring that way. Groves is a little bit different. I mean, he's more of a mid-range guy. He's got great court vision, very good in transition. He's kind of a big physical guard, and so much so he's 6'5", and he's got to be at least 200, maybe over that. Yeah, maybe 2'5", 210 even. At this young age, I can easily see him playing a little bit of three, a little small forward before too long. So he's kind of got an interesting little mix of this and that, and look for him maybe his sophomore year to actually begin to start making something of an impact. Yeah,
I'm interested to see how he fits in the rotation too. I think conventional wisdom and just looking at the roster like you just laid out there, that makes a lot of sense. The thing about Groves I like is he's been underrated, it seems like, for a while. He's the classic late bloomer, and when he first started playing varsity ball, he was like, I think 5'8", like 170. He was a smaller dude. Now 6'5", 200, and he absolutely dominated Minnesota basketball to the point that he was the Gatorade men's basketball player of the year, averaged over 30 points. He just filled out the stat sheet. And I do want to point out that and he told me in an interview that he's a 3-level scorer, and he takes pride in that. But if you look at his highlights, the guy is a pull-up, like bring it across half court. This was at the high school level, and knock down threes. So he does have that in his game. Though that did stand out to me what you said, the mid-range game, transition, all that. I think just what smacks to me is versatility, and this guy's got the proverbial chip on his shoulder as being underrated. Was literally unrated by all the recruiting services, including 24/7 Sports. And I know a lot of people kind of like, oh, about that. But if you look at his progression, it kind of makes sense because he really, what happened was he had a monster year and he didn't open up his recruitment until like a week before he committed to Tech, you know? So it's not like he had been on the scene a long time. He's a classic late bloomer. But what do you think, Mike?
Yeah, and I would just, one other thing I would say that just to say that, okay, you don't expect him to necessarily make an impact his freshman season, that's not set in stone because Christian Anderson, he was signed, I mean, at that time, nobody, including Brent McCaslin, I believe, expected him to make a huge impact the way he actually did, and yet he did. So, I mean, this can happen, you know, and I mean, Groves is clearly a talented player. You look at those stats, 34 points a game, 9 rebounds.
Yeah. He's like a Luka kind of in the high school level in terms of like just every statistic, you know, he filled it.
Yeah, so he's got talent there, you know, and so, you know, you always leave the door open.
Yeah.
And you say, well, you know, who knows? If he's good enough, he's going to play.
Absolutely. And, you know, going over to a different part in terms of position, again, tried this, Luke Goier, 6'10", classic rim protector. In terms of like offensive output and even rebound and all that, not spectacular, but, you know, his blocks per minute is amazing, and that's a really key stat. And obviously there was a hole there with Federico leaving, and I think he steps in and fills a very similar role, Mike.
Yeah, and, you know, he's just a freshman this last year.
Right.
So you expect him to make potentially a pretty big jump this coming season. And you mentioned blocks per minute. I think if you project it out to a 40-minute game, which obviously he's not going to play 40 minutes, but it comes up to like 4.5 blocks per game, which is, you know, yeah, the guy is a shot blocker. He's a rim protector. In that regard, he's better than Federico. So he can do that. He's also very aggressive on the offensive glass, which I love to see. Yeah. And the thing is, I think maybe Graham McCaslin does too, because there are 3 guys in his transfer class, Bam Goier, Brian, and Josiah Mosley, who are all really, really good offensive rebounders. Yeah. That's cannot be coincidence.
Right.
I mean, you know, that's been a big key to Houston's success under Sampson.
Yeah.
Killing it on the offensive glass. And maybe today I could use some of that myself.
Yeah, and of course they were bringing back Toppin, who is an elite offensive rebounder.
Yeah,
I mean, he really is. Even when he can't get things going in his offense or they gear to stop him, I mean, just like trash points, you know, claiming offensive boards and then going with that patented hook. I mean, he ends up with 15 and 10. You know what I mean? It's like, I thought he had a bad game. He had 15 and 10.
Yeah,
so he's an elite offensive rebounder.
Yeah, that's right. So if you put Toppin on the floor with those 3 guys that I mentioned, it's going to be hard to keep Tech off the offensive glass. In fact, the biggest competition for rebounds may be their teammates as opposed to the opposition. So, Bam Goier also, and now he doesn't have a whole lot of offensive game.
Right.
Putbacks, lobs, that sort of thing. But he's really good at catching the ball in traffic and making a quick move to the hoop. If he gets the ball within 5-6 feet of the rim, he is capable of putting it on the ground and getting there. So he does have a little bit of offensive dynamism to his game. But you're not going to expect him at this point to step out and shoot threes or any sort of jump shots, or even play with his back to the basket. But you're getting a terrific rim protector and a guy who can go get it on the offensive glass.
All right, and then again, we've talked about this, but not in this space. In terms of what still needs to be addressed on the roster, I'm curious, do you think it's possible that they don't add another point, like another guard, and they kind of roll with what they have? Because they do have some guard wing types. Do you think they go with Christian Anderson as kind of like the combo guard, you know, setting the table for folks? Or do you think they're looking to add to that position?
Well, I think they are still looking. My gut tells me that he's got something cooking. So there may be some international player we know nothing about, who everybody's like, wow, where'd this guy come from? And he's going to be a big factor at that one position. But, you know, it's also possible that he's looking at Christian Anderson sort of to develop the way Milos Ruzan did at Houston. He used to be at Oklahoma, and he was this sort of a combo type of a guard. But over time, he developed into a true point guard for Houston. This past year, it was great at the position. So that's not to say that Christian Anderson couldn't evolve in that direction. And if that's what they decide to do, I mean, there's worse options. He's a very talented player, so I think that is possible. I still believe that they're going to try to find a little bit more help at that position, though, between now and sometime in June.
So even just as the roster stands today, don't forget some of the other guys coming back in addition to JT and Christian, like Mario Ockentuck coming back. He was a big high school recruit get at the time, who redshirted last year, length, offensive ability, all that. If he's actually healthy and all that, ready to go as expected. Where do you see this roster in terms of, we asked in the rapid fire, we talked about, do you see this as a roster that could challenge for a Big 12 title and make, a deep tournament run?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't add any help at point guard, with what you've got right now, this team is the equal of last year.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, that's a strong statement.
Yeah, it is. So you're talking about an Elite Eight type of a team that's going to finish in the top 2 or 3 in the Big 12. I think that's where they're at right now. You add one more guy, and there's even a slight chance that Elijah Hawkins could come back.
That would be amazing.
Ruling.
Yeah.
If that happens, Tech is the preseason national title favorite.
Wow.
I believe that.
Wow.
I mean, he would certainly be mine, and it's not just mine. There are a lot of people out there that are really high on Texas Tech, and so to me, that would be what sort of pushes them over the edge to the point where there's a huge buzz surrounding Texas Tech going into next season. But even without that, it's an extremely dangerous team.
Man, it's exciting times for Red Wiener basketball fans. I know we're excited about it. Already can't wait. Feels like they just finished the season for me. But here we are, with for the most part, a new look roster with, of course, some important guys coming back. But Monty Joe, man, great stuff from you as always. Really appreciate y'all watching.